All right, guys, I have what I hope will be a good one tonight, but it's kind of for my friends at the Alti Playbook Report. We did our show this morning at 6:30 Sunday morning. You guys probably listened to it. It was with ETF Delta and ETF Inspector, but something came up in there during that show, and I wanted to expand on it a little bit. So I'm basically making this as kind of an addendum to that of cash versus just owning stock. Talking about various positions in Alti. Alti has some synthetic collars on right now. And anyway, I wanted to kind of follow up on how a synthetic collar works and how a short put works and how a covered call works. I know it sounds basic, but just stick with me. I think there's a very key misunderstanding that a lot of people miss. And I want you to understand this one thing about options. And the one thing is synthetics. It really makes everything a lot clearer. All right, stick around. We'll get right in the middle of it. Okay, we are going to review not really Alti trade, but their position review. So Alti has 4 positions on with just stock. They aren't, with just options. That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so there are 4 synthetic positions that they maintain. I'm going to show a spreadsheet of them in a second, but Alti typically employs a collar strategy, which is where they buy stock, that's 1 leg. They sell a call, that's 2 legs, and then they buy a put, 3 legs. A collar is a 3-legged strategy. Recently, Alti's expanded its approach to include a synthetic collar, which only has 2 legs. They're selling a put and buying another put. In other words, a put spread is a synthetic collar. I know that sounds weird, but just stick with me here. I'm going to try to show it to you in a way that makes sense. But let's look at these actual positions that Alti has. So right now, Alti has $354 million worth of stock accounted for through these synthetic positions, and they're actually holding that amount out, and they've got 354 million invested in T-bills so as not to over leverage. Let's kind of look how this works. In Galaxy right here, they have sold the 31 put and they bought the 29 put, and there's no stock and there's not even any calls. But it's the same, but it's the exact same thing. That the put spread is a synthetic collar. In Alti, they sold the 180, bought the 170. In Alti. In Lulu, they sold the 180, bought the 170. Palo Alto Networks, they sold the 202, bought the 195. And then in Tesla, they have a synthetic position on. Sold the 432, bought the 417 and a half. Okay, so here's the first thing. See where it says notional value? Let's look at Galaxy. This is the Galaxy position right here. They're long, I think it's 4 million shares. I can't read that many comments. A lot of shares. Yeah, they're long 4 million shares. And then they're short 40,000 calls at the 36 strike. And then they bought puts at the 33 and a half strike, 40,000 of them. So it's 3 legs, and their position looks like this. The most they can lose is $6 million. Okay. Or that is what their position would look like had they elected to do it with stock. These guys aren't doing it with stock. Let me show you what happens when we can just nix the stock. Watch this. We'll exclude the stock. Okay. And we switch the call to a put. It's the same trade. Selling the 36 put and buying the 33 and a half put is the same trade without stock. You don't need stock, and you get the same upside no matter how high the stock goes up. The upside is built into the price of the options that you've sold. I'll try to show it better here in a second. But here's Galaxy. Well, we'll switch it back to the 3-legged strategy. Okay, here's a Galaxy collar trade. Here's the same trade, same strikes, just 2 put options. It's the exact same trade. You don't get any extra upside by having the stock. And how could you have 4 million shares of stock and not get any upside? It didn't make sense to me either. But let's look at, here's the way you have to understand that. To understand that, let's look at Tesla. Okay, on Tesla, you could sell an at the money put, a 430 delta put, naked. That's all you need. No stock, no nothing. Okay, or you could buy 100 shares of stock and sell a 430 call. So you could either sell one put and that's all, or you could buy 100 shares of stock and sell a 430 call. It's the exact same result to the penny. And it has to be because of something called put call parity. There'd be opportunities for arbitrage if it want, but it's the same thing. A cash secured put is a cover call. It's a synthetic equivalent. You put yourself in the same position. And so I know you guys are thinking, well, no one wants to sell at the money puts. That's stupid. And it is. You don't want to sell at the money puts because you cap your upside. So somebody's like, well, the smart way to do it, the way you get all the extra upside, I think here's the big misnomer. The way you would get extra upside, of course, dummy, you buy the darn stock. You can't get upside if you don't have the stock. Put can't have upside, right? Buy the stock and sell an out of the money call. Tesla's trading at 430, sell a 450. Okay, and you could do that. You buy 100 shares of stock at 430 and you sell the 450. Absolutely. What does that get you? It gets you 20 points of upside between 430 and 450. So that's $2,000. Then plus you got a $500 credit for selling that call, which gets you about 25 points. You make about 25 points on that, and that's your max profit. But that only happens if the market goes up. If Tesla goes over 450, but if Tesla does go over 450, you get it's the same result. Doesn't matter if Tesla goes to 500. Okay. Let's see. If Tesla goes to 500 by halfway through, we'll do the call and the put. Okay. So here's the call trade. You're long 100 shares of stock, and here we go. Tuesday afternoon. We've some time out here. Wednesday afternoon. Some time's off the clock, and all of a sudden Tesla blew up. I mean, it just went to like 500 or something. Let's just say it went up 20. Just something. Okay. This position's worth $2,500. You made your max profit. That's all you could have made in the first place, $2,500. But you did good upside. Tesla went from 430 to 450, and your trade made $2,500. Whereas if Tesla hadn't moved, your trade would have made just $425, just the premium. So you are getting paid for the upside when you sell a put, and it's a really professional move. And that is the way our friends over at Granite Shares, Will Ryan, is selling in the money puts. All right. Have you seen Y-Spice stock chart? You want to tell me why Spice not getting any upside? We'll look at that in a second. Anyway, so here's the thing to know. Functionally, and a put and a call are basically the same thing. A naked put and a cover call are the same thing. It doesn't matter where you, but as long as it's the same strike, you could put the strike anywhere, and it's the same thing. And the reason it's because of, like, let's go back to the 450 example. On the 450 example on the put, let's go back to on the 450 call, you have 20 points of upside, and then the call's worth 5 points, a premium that you brought in. So that's where max profit's 25 points. Easy to understand. So you can get $2,500. That's the most profits you can get from this one. And that's with stock, right? But with put, it's the same. Just with the put by itself, it's the same thing. You make the same. If it goes to 500, you make the same $2,500. And then you can cover that put and roll out, just like you're going to do with the call. You can cover and roll, but it's the money's the same. The stock has nothing to do with it. The real what I'm trying to show is the difference is the 450 call only costs $5, right? 450, the premium, 570, whatever. Okay. Guess what? The 450 put, it has it's not, if it was only $5, then of course, buying the stock and selling if the prices were the same, of course, you would get extra upside, but they adjust the price of the put. What did they do? They make it more expensive. How much is it? What do you want to bet is $25? It's $25. It's the same no matter which way you do it. See what I'm saying? They just you just get your money up front if you sell the put. Whereas if you own stock and sell the call, you make the same amount of money if the market does the same thing. Okay, I think I made that point pretty well. So let me show you just one other. This is like an advanced point though. So here's on Galaxy. Here's two puts. And I kind of showed you this already. Two puts is the same thing is a call. Is the stock, a cover call plus a put. It's the same thing. The reason that is, I just want to remember, one put equals a covered call, right? Okay, so let's just exclude. So just the put by itself is a covered call. So adding the other put, all you have is a covered call with an out of the money put. It's a caller, right? Anyway, here's the other thing that's really going to blow your mind. It doesn't have to be puts because of put call parity. It could be calls. Watch this. And I asked Jay why they didn't do it this way. This is the way I would do it if I was managing the fund. I would sell a call spread. Well, you buy a call spread. And that's the reason they don't do it, is because it's a debit. They want to do credit trades. Actually, I understand why they don't do it. It's the same trade, though. You pay a debit. The profit and loss is to the penny. Exactly the same. Doesn't matter if it's two calls. A call spread is a synthetic caller. A long call spread is a synthetic caller. A short put spread, a sold put spread, is a synthetic caller. And also a caller is a caller, where you own stock, sell a call, and then buy a put. All right. So I think we have our synthetic equivalents down. Let's go back. Right here, if you want to see how much money synthetically the fund's tying up, look at the put that's sold. On Galaxy, they sold the 31 put. So you're on the hook to buy something that costs $31, 40,000 times 100. That's what you're on. That is when you sell a put, you're essentially bought the index. So that comes out to 124 million. Now they can't lose 124 million because of the caller, but they don't want to oversize. All of their positions are around 120, 130, 140 million. It makes it 4 or 5% of the overall fund, right? So this is what they use this to size. Like in Lululemon, they've agreed to buy something at 180, 6,000 times 100 comes to 108 million. It's $108 million notional trade. Palo Alto Networks is $122 million notionally because they agreed to buy something 6,000 times that costs $202.50. Then you multiply that by 100, that comes to 122 million, 512, 500. And then on the Tesla position, they've agreed to buy Tesla 2,900 times at 432.5. You multiply 2,900 times 432.5, multiply that by 100. That's how you get the notional value. So right now, total on these 4 synthetic positions, they have 354 million set aside. The thing that's good about that is right now, T-bills pay 4% or something. So this isn't money market, but money markets are pay. So they're earning a little interest on this money. So it's actually a better way to do it than the stock, because the actual price move is the same due to put call parity. You don't get any extra upside with stock than you do with options or any extra down. It's the same. So you actually do better this way just by the fact of the interest payments you can bring in. I don't know why they don't do all of them this way. And when I asked Jay about this, it's the first thing I thought of last October when they started doing callers. I was like, just buy call spreads, just sell put spreads. And he said they will do that occasionally, but even when they do that, they won't take advantage of of the leverage. They're still going to act as if notionally, they're going to size it accordingly. All right, so let's just see if I've addressed all of these. So there's the widespread misconception the funds use actual stock positions instead of synthetics, achieve greater upside or superior outperformance. Simply not true. We've looked into that. And I understand the confusion. It seems counterintuitive that a fund that merely sells a put could capture the same upside as a fund running a traditional cover call strategy with actually owning stock and selling out the money calls. It's a legitimate question, but I think I showed you it's in the cost of the put. They price the put to make it work out, right? A good option trader, somebody like Jay, they'll look, and a client will come to them and say, we're scared the market's going to crash. Okay. Well, and Jay will think, okay, so what can I do to help these guys out? Jay's a good option. I'm using Jay as an example of a good option trader. So he's thinking, okay, I could buy puts. Well, but out of the money puts are too expensive. They bleed too much. So that's not going to be a good solution. I could show these guys a caller where they sell calls to buy puts. Okay. Or I could also just sell stock. Those are the three. The client needs a little bit of money in retirement. Those are your three options. Okay. When Jay's talking to the client, well, then it turns out that he has stock in Apple. He's worked at Apple 30 years. The cost basis is too low. If he sold the stock, his tax bill would be too high. Okay. So Jay looks at the synthetic equivalents. He looks, you could buy a put and essentially be short the market. It's too expensive. It has disadvantages. You could do a caller. You could sell a call to buy a put, and that has advantages. And you don't have to sell the stock, and you could still make a little bit of income. So what I'm saying is, a good option trader will look. Sometimes it's the right decision to buy an option for a certain strategy. Sometimes it's the right decision to sell that option. Sometimes it's the right decision to do some type of spread. Sometimes it's the right decision not to mess with the option and use the stock. Sometimes the options are priced ridiculously high where it makes strategies unappealing. The point is, a good option trader like Jay, Scott Snyder, whatever, they understand synthetics intimately. Stock and options are the same thing. They're equivalents. When you purchase a call option, the market maker typically, he'll go and buy shares. If you purchase a Tesla call option, a market maker will go purchase 50 shares of Tesla if you buy a net money call option, because they don't want to have any risk. They don't want to have any delta exposure, so they'll hedge their risk. So that's what I'm saying. A 50 delta option is worth 50 shares of stock. It's the same thing. Okay. It's exactly the same thing. Since option deltas change continuously as the market moves around, market makers engage in what's called delta hedging, where they're constantly adjusting their stock positions to maintain a balanced exposure, and they're still capturing that time decay. And that's why market makers are wealthy people. It'd be a great business to be in, but in this sense, stocks and options are the same. They're interchangeably, and wealth managers like Jay, they're going to look at all ways to do it, doing it with stock, doing it with options, doing a combination. And because they're synthetics, what I'm trying to get, because it's synthetically equivalent, they'll look at all their different ways to do it and find a way that is the cheapest way to do it, that makes the most sense given what IV is, and given what the customer's needs are. So put call parity, I want to talk about this in a little bit. This is the foundation. This is why synthetic positions work. So put call parity is maybe one of the most important principles in option trading. It describes a functional equivalence between a put and a call option in the same underlying asset with the same strike price and expiration date. That's what I showed you with Google. And we did that 450 call or the 450 naked put, same thing. So it's when the price of an otherwise equivalent put and call options deviate from parity, creates arbitrage opportunities. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen very often. The most important thing to understand, this is the most basic synthetic. A short put is a cover call. Okay, use the same strikes. A short at the money put's the same thing as stock plus an at the money cover call. It's the same thing. So I kind of demonstrated how that works in option strat. A covered call is 100 shares of stock plus a short call option, just to review. And the short put is just a short put option. Has to be the same strike, and then it's the same. The risk, reward, money, profit, it's all the same. Sometimes there are slight differences due to the put call parity not being quite in parity, or but it's very close. The downside risk is the same. The break evens, the risk is the same. They have the same exposure to the underlying, price movements. The key difference is capital efficiency. The short put only requires cash collateral to equal the strike price, like I showed you. Well, the covered call requires the full capital outlay to purchase the shares. You have to have already owned the shares or to buy the shares to do a covered call. So a covered call strategy is way more expensive just by the fact of having to have 100 shares. This freed up capital can be invested in interest-bearing instruments. So we were talking about that. I'd use something like TO, but you could use whatever. You could use a money market. You could use any number of things. So let's look at. I had AI do a put call parity visualizer, and I'm going to share that with you guys in the comments. But this just kind of goes through the same thing I'm talking about. You can adjust the stock price and the strike price, and you can see how put call parity works. I'll share that link with you guys in case you guys are interested in that. Let's look at YSPY now. YSPY is my evidence that the selling puts does get upside. Okay, let's look at YSPY against iSpy. People love iSpy, like I always say, me included. It's not doing nearly as well as YSPY, and people always look at iSpy as just like the best. Or the other one that really the best is triple QI by Neos, and it is. I'm not knocking it. Triple QI is a great fund, but now this is based on the Nasdaq, so surely you would think it would be YSPY, right? Because triple QI is so steady, right? And it did beat YSPY by a little bit, but not by as much as you might think. But YSPY beats everything in its class. Like you would think that everyone loves T-SPY. I'm not saying anything wrong with T-SPY, right? But everyone thinks that's the one, right? Well, not really. YSPY is spanking it. 24% instead of 22%, 24.5% instead of 21.75%, whatever. But what does YSPY doing? Well, they're selling in the money put options. So that you do catch upside with put options. Depends on how far in the money you put them. Not only that, you don't only catch upside by where they are in relation to the money. You get paid at the time of you get upside also in the price of the option. If you heard, who was that? It was Will was on with Ambassador on Friday, and he was talking about that. The upside is also the premium you receive. That is your upside. You're trading the premium for the rest. But anyway, yeah, YSPY is beating every SPY-based fund that I could think of. If you guys know of one that is not beating, let me know. It's even beating SPY. It's beating. I know what it was. It's even beating some funds that it shouldn't. Like, well, first of all, let's look at JEPI. Everyone thinks JP Morgan JEPI is just so super super-safe, and it is. It is. It's super safe. Look how much money it cost you there being safe. You get 7.8% total return, where YSPY got triple. And this is what I was going to show you when I did the triple QI demo. It's still impressive the YSPY is that close to triple QI, but like JEPQ. JEPQ is the JP Morgan fund based on NASDAQ. YSPY is beating it, and it's based on NASDAQ. I mean, so yes, you do get upside. YSPY is selling in the money options, and you do get upside. Also, YSPY is using leveraged options, but still, the moneyness is where that comes from. Anyway, I think YSPY is a very impressive stock. Let's look at YSPY one more time. Look at this. YSPY turned half a year old today. So if you look at YSPY's dividend of $5.06, this math's easy. What's double 506? Well, I'm pretty sure that's $10.12. Okay. So if a company paid $10.12, well, what's their total price? It's $20.22. It's almost perfectly a 50% payday. Just at the rate they're going right now is about at a 50% payday. Think about this for a second. There's no guarantee that this will keep up, but right now we have a fund that's paying a 50% payday, beating the SPY on NAV, beating JEPI, beating JEPQ, beating T-SPY. And what are they doing? They're selling in the money puts. So, a put, I know I sound like a broken record. Puts do get upside, tons of it. In fact, it's the way professionals usually do it. They, Warren Buffett and stuff, when he's doing income plays, it's puts, selling puts. It's the way to do it. Not financial advice. All right. Well, I just wanted to come on and try to review that. I hope I didn't muddy the water. I hope it made it clearer, but I just wanted to talk about this little. It's a nuance, but it's really important to understand. It doesn't matter how high the stock goes, and doesn't matter if you actually own the stock and they're doing a covered call with the stock versus with the put. It's the same difference. I promise you. Well, I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you very much. And go check out my friends ETF Delta and ETF Inspector. They're both bigger than my channel, or especially ETF Inspector. I don't know about ETF Delta, but they have some great content. And I bet a bunch of you guys, if you're fans of me, I've mentioned their content a jillion times, so you probably have already checked it out. And I'll also share this link for this put call parity visualizer, where it shows you how much extra money you can make on interest and stuff. It's somewhat interesting. I'll share that in the comments. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening.